Welcome to Half the Battle!
In a previous video, I talked about how I put up a sign in our family store asking for old toys, since, due to the pandemic, there are no flea markets or comic-cons or any other offline ways to get vintage toys. This approach worked, hence the first video on that.
And I recently got another bite, the results of which you'll see later on in the video, because that's not the only thing I did.
If you follow me on Twitter, you may know that I've also been going through my parents' attic, searching for my own toy treasures from the past. It's been a lot of fun and a way to cope with the whole COVID thing.
So today, I'm showing you some highlights of what I got out of the attic, as well as some of the stuff that got brought into the store.
Part 1. Attic Stuff. The Phantom X19.
If you saw my video last week, you'll know that I have two Phantoms. One complete and one, really not complete. Yeah, this one was in the attic. And yet, this wasn't a childhood toy. How come? Well, years and years ago, around end of the 90s, beginning of the 2000s, I was doing a lot of flea markets. And this thing was part of a lot. Yeah, sometimes at a flea market somebody will have a huge box of G.I.Joe toys, vehicles and figures, but they'll only sell them as a lot. And this was in the lot, so I had to take it. Most of the vehicles were basically like this one, just a shell, but there were a lot of nice figures in there, and it was cheap, so I picked it up, took the figures and put the vehicles in the attic and forgot about them. So this one is gonna be a bit of a project. I already had my dad make a new nose cone, ones that glued onto there because, as you saw last week, these things come off really easily. So now all I really need to do is make some new fins. Maybe a special one-of-a-kind type of fin, I haven't decided yet. And I might need to fix the landing gear too. I hate to keep saying this, but if you saw my episode last week, you know that the one on this one is broken. Well, no, it still works, but it dangles and it won't go back in on its own. You have to help it. Anyway, that was the Phantom. The best of the stuff from that lot that was in the attic from that one flea market guy.
X-Changer action figure.
Okay, this thing is freaking weird.
It has a He-Man chest, removable limbs, and a spider head. It's from an 80s storyline called X-Changers, and I have no freaking idea where or how I got this. But it's pretty cool, so it's going into the collection. Bioman. Power Rangers wasn't the first time a Japanese Super Sentai series was adapted in the West. In France, they adapted the 1984 Shoudenshi Bioman series. By the way, this was the first Sentai Haim Saban, the creator of Power Rangers, tried to adapt for an American audience, making a pilot episode all the way back in 1986. The French version was a dub with some elements changed. The main bad guy, for example, was renamed from Dr. Man in Japan to Dr. Mad in Europe. No relation.
Anyway, the French adaptation was a huge hit in both France and Belgium.
Now, at this point you might have noticed that these toys I have are not from Bioman.
Well, yes and no.
In France, they ran into the same problem Power Rangers would face years later. The show was extremely popular, but they were running out of Sentai footage, since every series in Japan was unique and only ran for a limited number of episodes.
So in France, they kinda did what Power Rangers ended up doing years later.
Namely, they used a Sentai that came after Bioman, named Masked Man, and adapted that, calling it Bioman 2. And that's what these figures are from. So, in Japan, these would be Masked Man figures, but in France and Belgium, they're Bioman 2. Oh, there were original Bioman toys, in Japan anyway, but they're very difficult to find and expensive as hell, while these Masked Man ones go for far more reasonable prices.
By the way, those figures weren't the only thing from Bioman 2 or Masked Man if you prefer that I got out of the attic. Oh no. There was also the gun! Like the gun that the characters used in the show. It's pretty neat. And it has a secret. Let's see. It's both a gun and a knife. Now you can bring a knife to a gunfight. Best thing of all, I got the electronics working again on this thing. Yes, I may or may not have been running around the apartment pew-pewing for a couple of minutes, hours. Look, it's been a long pandemic, okay? It was time to give in to the madness.
Bludgeon.
So there were also a bunch of Transformers in the attic. I thought I had traded most of them for G.I. Joes back when I started collecting and traded things with Americans to get stuff we didn't have over here, but apparently I forgot about a box. And Bludgeon was one of the figures in there. And it's complete! The shell still has the gun and the helmet. Yeah, Bludgeon was a pretender, so he had a shell as well as a robot. And the robot even has his gun. I only show this off because apparently this thing is quite rare to have complete and mint, and it goes for a bundle. Not that I plan on selling any of this. This is just part of my childhood, and I'm glad I found it again. There were quite a few other Transformers, but nothing quite as nice as a complete mint Bludgeon. That's why I'm showing this off. Plus, I haven't gotten most of the other Transformers home yet. Oh, there was one thing. The shell, again with helmet and gun for Pretenders, Grimlock. Now, I actually do have the Grimlock that goes inside here. It is on my shelf, so this is complete too, which is nice.
The Skystorm Chopper.
But back to G.I. Joe. The other nice thing that was in the attic was the Skystorm Chopper. Now, if it's so nice, why did I keep it in the attic? Well, because the canopy was missing. But when I started getting boxes down with Legos and Playmobil and other stuff, there were a surprising number of things in there that weren't Lego, but were in fact pieces from G.I. Joe, Transformers and other stuff. And I found the canopy, so I got this thing back, and now it's only missing 2 missiles, which isn't too bad. And I'm not sure, I think there's supposed to be something here. Well, I haven't looked it up yet. But it looks cool enough as it is, so it's again part of my collection. Kinda feel bad that I also got a complete Skystorm a few years ago. Still, 2 is better than 1.
The Hammer.
Okay, stop! Hammer time! Yes, I know it's an old joke. The Hammer. One big-ass Jeep/Humvee. It's very, very nice, which again begs the question, why was this thing in the attic? Well, 2 reasons really. One, it was broken. One of these things that swivel out, they attach with a peg to the vehicle. The peg was broken off inside of it, so it wasn't really functional anymore. But you know what? Once I got it down, I managed to get the peg out and super glued it back together, and it works pretty well now. Not that I'm gonna mess with it too much, but it looks good. The second reason that it had a lot of things missing. And it's once again one of those situations where you have to go through boxes that are completely unrelated to G.I. Joe to find most of the stuff. So I got all the missiles back, the missile launcher, the other gun, the gun that went on top, and even unbroken, the ammunition loader here. I saw some videos on that, one from HCC788, saying that that is quite rare and special, so I'm pleased as punch. The only thing that's really still missing is the antenna, but I'm not really bothered about that. I do also have in my garage the tripod that you can attach the gun to and the ammo box. So the only thing that's really missing is the antenna. And like I said, I don't care. This thing looks awesome, and unlike the other 2 vehicles that I showed you, I don't have another hammer, so I'm very happy to add this back into the collection. Really cool thing.
And now part 2, stuff I bought from a guy coming into our store. Knockoff He-Man/Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And here we have what would happen if a He-Man and a Ninja Turtle had a baby.
Yes, this thing is real.
It's from a bootleg toy line called Turley Gang that was released in Germany and surrounding areas like Belgium. This guy is called Secundus. And no, I didn't know all of that when I first saw this guy. I have to thank Phalis for his YouTube series Bootleg Zones, as he did an episode on this line. By the way, on Twitter he also identified for me what line that spider guy came from.
Dude is the master of bootlegs.
Flash, Falcon and Quake Transformers.
So, the thing about the guy who brought this stuff into the store was, he did have a lot of toys, but, like the guy in the flea market 20 years ago, he also only wanted to sell it as a lot. And there was really only one G.I. Joe item in there that I wanted, so I had to take it all. And while I am an expert on G.I. Joe, I'm not so much an expert on Transformers or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but there were some Ninja Turtle stuff, and then there was some Transformer stuff. I took a gamble and I bought a lot. And man, am I glad that I did. I have to go back to that Turley Gang figure for a bit. Apparently, you can have trouble finding a cheap one since they're quite rare. So that was a good investment. I had no idea at the time. But then there were the Transformers that were in there. This guy is called Flash, this guy is called Falcon. Another toy called Flash. I wish I'd known about him when I did my review of Flash from G.I.Joe. Anyway, these are small toys, but they're okay, I guess. But there's one more. Quake. Now this thing is big. And you know the best thing about these things? All three of them? They're European exclusives. They only came out in Europe because by the time these were made, Hasbro had cancelled Transformers in the US. Now, I did not know this when I bought the lot. I just wanted a G.I. Joe thing and the other was, well, nice to have, maybe. But now that I realize that these things are quite special, I'm pleased as punch that I picked them up. Well, let's talk about the final item of the day.
And the final item for today, the Mud Fighter.
A mint complete Mud Fighter. It even has dogfight with his gun. So that was really what I bought a lot for from the guy. And it's the European exclusive version because it has the blue bombs while the American version has silver bombs. But still, that wasn't the reason why I wanted this. No, the Mud Fighter came with something. It still had the box. Yes, of course, the European box, but it's mint, it isn't cut. I mean, even the flag points, or star points as we call them, are still there. And you may notice that it's not called a Mud Fighter. Yeah, for some foreign file card fun, the Mud Fighter was called the Salamandre. No guessing for what that means. Yeah, it's salamander. You know what's really weird? This is a Belgian box. So it has both Dutch and French on it. And yet, salamandre is a French word. So what's it called in Dutch? Salamandre. They kept the French word. I have no idea why, since salamander in Dutch and in English is the same words. Salamander, salamander. But we only got the French spelling for some reason. Oh, and dogfight is called bullseye. So, European exclusive Mud Fighter, European exclusive box and names. That's why I bought a lot. All the other stuff that was with that was just beautiful golden extras that I didn't realize were special until after I bought them. Well, I'll see you next time, everybody. And hey, why not like, share, and subscribe if that's your thing. Extra special bonus for those of you who stayed till after the credits. Also from the attic, a big bag of wrestling figures. From the 90s, from Hasbro. So just to show a few, Andre the Giant, Brutus the Barber Beefcake, Ron Simmons. Yeah, okay, that one's not Hasbro, that was from WCW, and it's an in-action figure since it doesn't have any, you know, articulation. Still nice. Ooh, yeah, the Macho Man, Randy Savage. That's Smash from Demolition, the Big Boss Man, Hexa Jim Duggan, the Hulkster, everybody else Hulk Hogan. Oh, the Honky Tonk Man, Rowdy Roddy Piper and the Ultimate Warrior, Jake the Snake Roberts, another Ultimate Warrior for some reason, Akeem the African Dream, And finally, X, the other guy from Demolition, and Ravishing Recruit. Now, why did I show you all these wrestling figures? Well, you're gonna have to wait a while. There might be a reason for it. I'll never tell.